So this is a demonstration of the How Close to 100 activity, which is a cooperative activity that you would do with two students for practicing basic multiplication facts in a visual way. And it is cooperative. They're working together to achieve the highest score they can. The supplies you'll need for this are 2 copies of the activity handout or any other 10 by 10 grid that you can make, 2 different coloring tools, your choice, and a pair of dice. If you don't have a pair of dice, I've given you a website with a virtual dice rolling simulation. So this shows you the components of the handout that you're going to be using. You'll have a 10 by 10 grid, and at the very bottom is spaces to record multiplication problems. On player one's turn, they begin by rolling the dice. In this case, player one has rolled a 2 and a 3. Player one needs to draw a 2 by 3 rectangle anywhere they want to on the grid. For instance, this is a 2 by 3 rectangle. Player one will then record the 2 numbers that they rolled and multiply them, which gives a grand total of 6. And of course, we can confirm that there are 6 squares inside of that rectangle. So there's a nice tie-in here to calculating areas of rectangles. Then it's player two's turn. Player two rolls a 4 and a 1. So they need to draw a rectangle that's 4 units by 1 unit anywhere on the grid. For instance, here. They also record their numbers as factors in a multiplication problem. Then it goes back to being player one's turn. I am hoping you can recruit someone to do this activity with you, but if not, you can always play both as player one and player two. This time, player one rolls a 5 and a 6. Now this rectangle takes up a lot of space. There is a strategy involved here in trying to get the highest score possible. We'll get to that in a minute. Record the multiplication problem. You keep going until it's impossible for one player to draw the rectangle they rolled. So here you can see I've done a couple more iterations of rolling and drawing of rectangles. In one instance, there's a square because the player rolled 2 2s. So suppose it's player one's turn again and they roll a 4 and a 5. Now when you draw the rectangles, they can touch, but they cannot overlap. So you can see I have rectangles touching each other, that's fine. But somewhere, player one is supposed to put a 4 by 5 rectangle where it's not going to overlap anything. That turns out to be hard. If I put it here, I've got overlap. If I put it here, I've got overlap. Even if I go ahead and rotate that rectangle, there's still nowhere I can put it where it will be covering only white squares. So this signifies the end of the game. Now, at the end of the game, the 2 players total up the points that they earned. The points that they earned are found here. So you add up all of these numbers created by your multiplication problems, and that will give you a count of the number of boxes that are shaded on the 10 by 10 grid. So we add all the numbers. In this case, it ends up being 42. That corresponds to 42 shaded squares on the grid. And that would be the score for this team for this round. The objective is to get a score as close to 100, which would mean that you've covered the entire grid as you can, following the rules again that the rectangles can't overlap. So then after you play the game once, I would like you to play it a second time and try to beat your last score. And, think of the strategy you want to use to maximize the space that you're leaving for the next person to draw their rectangle. When you're done, you're going to report your highest score, so what your closest to 100 score was. And I also want you to submit scans as PDFs of your 2 game boards. Okay? Try it and have fun.